All right, so get this. You're at the Grammys, music's biggest night, and Kanye and Bianca Censori show up and reportedly get escorted out. What happened? That's what we're diving into today. Buckle up because things get interesting. We're talking fashion, potential legal trouble, and a whole lot of buzz surrounding California's rather strict indecent exposure laws. To break it all down, we've got our expert here ready to unpack what could have gone down that night. So set the scene for us. What exactly went down at the Grammys with Kanye and Censori?
Well, picture this Kanye in his signature head-to-toe black sunglasses on, looking very much like, well, Kanye. Bianca was initially covered in this long black fur coat, but then boom, coat comes off and she's wearing a completely see-through mesh outfit.
Okay, that definitely tracks with Kanye's history of bold fashion choices, but was it really enough to get them kicked out of the Grammys?
Here's where it gets even juicier. Some sources claim they weren't even invited in the first place. But more than just a fashion faux pas, what Bianca was wearing could actually lead to legal issues because of California Penal Code 314.1. It's all about indecent exposure.
Wait, hold up. So we're talking potential criminal charges here over an outfit.
California law takes this stuff seriously. Basically, indecent exposure means exposing your naked body or genitals in a way that could offend or annoy others. Think about it. You're at the Grammys surrounded by all sorts of people. The potential for someone to be offended by what someone is wearing is definitely there.
So it's not just about the clothes themselves, but also about where you are and who's around.
Exactly. Let's imagine for a moment that someone tries to claim it was all an accident, a wardrobe malfunction. Oops, my dress just happened to be see-through. Would that fly in court?
I'm guessing, based on your tone, probably not.
Nope, not at all. To actually be found guilty of indecent exposure in California, the exposure has to be intentional. It can't be an accident or a wardrobe malfunction. They also have to be in front of someone who could be offended by it.
So even if you think your outfit is totally cool, someone else might not, and that's where things get tricky.
Precisely. And it's not just about potentially offending someone. The person also has to be trying to draw attention to themselves. Plus, they need to have the intention of either gratifying themselves sexually or deliberately trying to offend someone. Those are pretty specific criteria.
Well, California does not mess around. So with Censori, we're talking about a possible real legal battle here. What kind of consequences could she be facing?
A first-time offense is considered a misdemeanor, which could mean a fine of up to $1,000 or even 6 months in county jail. Not exactly a slap on the wrist.
Definitely not. So what happens if it's not your first time at the rodeo, so to speak?
If it's a second offense, it's a whole different ballgame. We're talking felony charges, potential time in state jail, and get this mandatory registration as a sex offender for at least 10 years.
Whoa, that escalated quickly. It seems like California takes indecent exposure very seriously.
Absolutely, and it's not just about celebrities and red carpets either. Think about it. This law applies to everyone in California in all sorts of situations.
You're right. This isn't just some Hollywood drama. It actually impacts everyday life. But since we are on the topic of Kanye, I got to ask, do you think he and Bianca knew they weren't invited to the Grammys, or was this some kind of a publicity stunt?
It's hard to say for sure what was going through their minds, but you have to admit, Kanye has never been one to shy away from controversy, especially when it comes to fashion.
That's for sure. Remember, that whole era of shutter shades and leather kilts definitely made a statement, but this time that statement might come with some serious legal baggage.
Exactly, and let's not forget the Grammys themselves. They're a private event, right? Do they have any say in this whole situation, or is it purely up to California law?
That's a good point. So the Grammys could technically be okay with an outfit, but California law could still come down on you.
It's possible. Imagine a situation where an event has pretty relaxed rules about what you can wear, but then someone shows up in an outfit that, while acceptable to the event organizers, still manages to violate California's indecent exposure law.
Whoa, that's a bit of a legal tightrope walk. You could be following one set of rules and breaking another without even realizing it.
That's why it's always a good idea to be aware of the potential legal implications of what you wear, especially if you're pushing boundaries. It's better to be safe than sorry.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they keep in mind, especially when it comes to navigating the world of fashion and the law?
The biggest takeaway is that what you wear can have real legal consequences. It goes beyond expressing yourself. You have to understand the law and the potential for someone to be offended. And this isn't just a California thing. Either indecent exposure laws exist all across the country.
So no matter where you are, think before you dress right, especially if you're going for a bold look.
Exactly. And hey, when in doubt, maybe layer up a bit. It could save you a whole lot of trouble in the long run.
Good advice. A little extra fabric never hurt anyone. But before we wrap this up, I have to ask, do you think this whole Censori situation will have a lasting impact on the fashion world or even the entertainment industry? Are we going to see a sudden wave of conservative outfits on red carpets?
It's hard to predict trends, but this incident definitely serves as a reminder that there are limits to what's considered acceptable both socially and legally.
So maybe a shift towards more awareness and a bit more nuance in fashion choices.
It's definitely possible. Fashion's a powerful way to express yourself, but with that power comes responsibility.
That's a great point. So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Do you think California's indecent exposure law goes too far? Or does it strike a good balance between letting people express themselves and protecting others from being offended? It's a tricky question with no easy answers.
It really is. This whole situation brings up that constant push and pull between individual freedom and what society expects of us. And let's be real, the law is just one piece of the puzzle. It's up to all of us to really think about these issues and consider different points of view.
I love that. It's all about having those open conversations, right? Well, this has been an eye-opening deep dive for sure. Who would have thought a see-through outfit could lead us to this fascinating discussion about fashion law and social norms?
It just goes to show you the power of fashion. It's a huge part of our culture, and even seemingly small choices can have big consequences.
So for our listeners, we encourage you to keep digging into this topic. Learn more about indecent exposure laws. Think about the role of fashion in society and what you think about personal expression versus public decency. This conversation is far from over, and we'd love to hear your thoughts.
And remember, whether you're a fashionista or just someone who likes expressing themselves through clothes, always think about the context and how your choices might affect others.
Kind of said it better myself. It's all about being mindful and aware. And on that note, that's a wrap on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those fashion choices stylish but legal.